Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, May 24th. As we always do, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, is this microphone working? It is, okay. First up, we're going to vote the request of Boylston Vereen, sorry I butchered that name so badly, for a change of manager to Angela DiMartino. Angela, come on up to the microphone. Welcome.
I almost said good morning. Good evening. Is this working?
I don't know, I can't hear it.
Hello?
It's feedback, so
1, 2.
let's assume it is.
Well,
I can hear you fine.
pretty loudly.
Okay.
My name is Angela DiMartino. I was recently voted in as the president of the Boylston Schulverein that you might know. It's the property by Bubbling Brook, the German-American Friendship Club. And our manager stepped down from the board. The liquor license was in his name. Traditionally, the liquor license is held in the president's name. And I'm here to apply for that and hope you will grant us that, permission.
Thanks. So we always refer to it as the German Club.
Yes.
And
Us
it's
too.
a great facility. I've been to weddings there, all sorts of events. So it's really a great facility. So, Jim?
No questions.
There's no public
right?
hearing, right?
Yeah, no public hearing.
Okay.
I don't have any questions.
Jim, would you make a motion?
I'll move to approve the request of Boylston Vereen for change of manager to Angela DiMartino.
Second?
Thank you very much. But
Your
we'll try this
motion is-
again. Boylston Schulverein.
Okay, got it.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Next up, we have the Police Chief Quarterly Report. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you very much for having us tonight. Okay, so just kick off with some of the more notable incidents that have happened in the past quarter. On March 18th, there was a motor vehicle crash involving a pedestrian at Route 1 in High Plain Street, which resulted in some serious injuries. Thorough investigation through our crash reconstructionists and detectives and review of video in the area revealed that the crash was not at fault of the operator. And as a result of the case update on that is that the operator was cleared of any charges and we had exonerated her. On March 31st, officers responded to 95 West Street for a report of a residential breaking and entering. As a result, some distribution of evidence of distribution of marijuana was found there. And as a result, search warrants were sought by detectives and charges were filed as a result. One thing we've been seeing a lot of recently is catalytic converter thefts. In fact, we actually had 4 of them today during the daytime, so it's kind of a timely topic. We've seen an incredible increase in thefts. There was one at the train station yesterday and one actually behind the building today, and one also at Blessed Sacrament. So we're going to work those cases now. And the idea behind those is there's precious metals that are contained in those devices as part of the vehicle, and they've been cut out in a clandestine way. Usually we see them at night. We're seeing a trend during the day now, so we're going to begin to investigate that as this information is just coming in now. So concerning, to say the least, so I guess I would implore the public, if you were to see anything that was suspicious or anything that looked out of place, to please go ahead and notify us, even if you think it might be nothing, and we'll take a look. So we were able to clear one of those cases, which was great. It was a case that was involving a landscape company, local landscape company. This is what we traditionally saw, was large quantities of them stolen from commercial vehicles on an overnight. It's in a locked yard, so no one can catch them. So our detectives were able to locate and charge an individual with stealing a lot of those in April, and that was a very difficult case to solve, so we were happy with that. In terms of statistics, our calls for service, we were around 3,400 calls for service this quarter. Similar to last, we were around 3,350. We had 16 arrests, which was down from 20 last quarter, and our overdose data, we are now at we are at 8 for the year with unfortunately 1 fatality. That is down from 11 last year at this time. So we are seeing a trend downward somewhat, but it's still obviously concerning and at the forefront of our concern. Longview Farm, we were down from quarter 1 to 28 calls for service. We had 52 in the first quarter, so that was good. A lot of that had to do with some of the regular folks that we were dealing with had been replaced or taken into custody and held on various cases. So we saw a lot less calls for service up there recently. And again, our mentor program at that school has been extremely effective in our relationship with dealing with them and how we've been managing the call volume at that location. Mental health calls, year to date, we're 193 calls. This time last year, we were around 217. So again, we're still on par for where we were last year at this time. Shifting gears to community policing, we're very happy and proud to announce that the U.S. Attorney General's Excellent Community Policing Award was given to Officer Tom Hart. He received this in the category of Innovation in Community Policing. Incredible honor. I was actually on the call with the U.S. Attorney himself and the U.S. Attorney from Massachusetts, Rachel Rollins, and it was impressive, the company that we were in. So out of 18 recipients nationwide, we were one of them, and there was 2 from Massachusetts, so another officer from Barnstable PD. So very proud. The award ceremony is on June 17th at the Federal Courthouse, which we'll be attending along with Rebel, if she makes it. We had a Rad Kids class this past May, and we're going to hope to have another one in June. That'll include some kids from Longview Farm, so we can include them as well. National Drug Take-Back Program, on April 30th, we had over 200 pounds of unwanted prescription drugs taken by our officers into a DEA facility for destruction. Tremendous thanks to the Walpole Health Department that helped us out with the unwanted sharp containers or sharps and syringes. They took those for us. So that was a big help. Those are hard to get rid of, so they were tremendous in helping us out with that. Officers responded up to the league school after a young man's mom had called and said that it was his birthday and was recently placed at the league school. So we went up there along with the fire department and let him see the cars and Rebel and the fire trucks. And it was a great event. Everybody had a good time. So it was nice for him and for us as well. We utilized the new basketball hoops that have been installed next to the police station. We had some kids from Blessed Sacrament come down and play basketball across the street, so that was phenomenal. It was an afternoon game. I think it was a kid's birthday party as well, so they get to celebrate. It was very nice. So I was there for a while myself, and those kids beat us up pretty good, so it was good. Allison Critical Incident Response Training, our Officers Connected trainings at Blessed Sacrament and St. Mary's Church to kind of include more of our houses of worship in that training, which is incredibly important. And we also did an Alice Safety Drill at the Johnson Middle School. In terms of our grants, we are well on our way with our clinician grant, mental health clinician grant. The grant's been accepted and submitted, and that's in the works now with DMH. And we were contacted by Riverside. We will likely begin the hiring process for that person in July. So it's moving along quickly, and we're very happy with that. So we'll work with them to make sure we get the right person, right fit for our department. And we're looking forward to implementing that program. We could definitely use it. The Community Traffic Safety Grant Program, this is the program where they would, through EOPS, that would provide different items for us to have safety programs for kids and things of that nature. So Officer Hart's going to conduct some safety talks between the kindergarten and third grade classes in June, and there's some coloring books that were also provided during this funding, so we can get some safety stuff to the kids before summertime. Municipal Road Safety Grant, this is the Drive Sober, Get Pulled Over campaign, click at a ticket, speeding enforcement, distracted driver, things of that nature. In March, we conducted 12 hours of enforcement with over 40 motor vehicle stops, 36 citations and written warnings for failure to stop for pedestrians and crosswalks, which has been obviously increasingly important as people are out and about in the warm weather. In April, we also did 31 hours of enforcement with 65 traffic stops and 57 citations for improper use of a mobile device, which again, distracted driving is obviously at the forefront of our enforcement as well. Shifting into personnel-related issues, we hired dispatcher David Sullivan, who came to us from the Plymouth Police Department. He replaced dispatcher John Holmes, who's now in the Police Academy. Dispatcher Sullivan brings a wealth of experience to us, so he was able to transition quickly and to fill a role that we desperately needed to have filled in the absence of now soon-to-be Officer Holmes when he graduates from the Academy. On April 12th, we came before your board. Sergeant Brian Becker was promoted to lieutenant and has assumed command of the patrol division. He's adjusted well into his new role and jumped in feet first, as I knew he would. Same with Officer Crown. He came before you also on April 12th. He was promoted to sergeant. He has been assigned to the day and evening shifts as patrol supervisor, done a tremendous job. Officer Liam O'Donnell, just this past week, accepted a job with the Massachusetts State Police, so he entered their training academy. He was here for roughly 2 years. Incredibly nice kid. Felt terrible about leaving, and he wanted me to pass along his gratitude for giving him an opportunity to get out of the academy to work here. He left on very good terms, and I certainly wish him the best of luck in his future endeavors. On a quick update, we just received our academy graduation date, or there's actually no graduation now from the police academy because of COVID, but the 2 officers that are in should be out on July 15th, starting here on July 18th upon their completion of training. So we look forward to having them come on board and enter the field training program. And that is all I have. I'll be willing to take any questions, of course, you may have.
Any questions right now?
Well, I think we were gonna talk a little bit about some things in South Walpole. We
Oh,
can do that now, or?
I was remiss if I forgot to mention that, yes.
Okay.
So of course, as you know, with the stadium event this past weekend, we had a tremendous amount of traffic in that area. It was traffic that we hadn't seen before, and as long as I've been here. In our communications with the barracks commander at the state police, as well as some of our counterparts in Foxborough, it appeared as though it was 72,000 people going to the same place on a 90-degree day, and a lot of them were not from this area. We saw a tremendous amount of plates from Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York, Maine, and they really didn't know where they were going. And I think it led to a tremendous amount of congestion when the lots opened at 3 p.m. And we managed it. We were staffed as we normally were, and unfortunately, some folks ended up in neighborhoods parking, and that's just stuff that we can't accept. So, as part of that, and through our recent conversations about the mitigation to some of the quality of life issues in South Walpole, I had reached out to the director over at of security details over at the stadium, and explained to him our situation. He was more than willing to give us two additional officers for future concert events, which will help mitigate some of the issues with people in the neighborhoods. What I wanted to do is place an officer at Pine Street at Walpole Park South to eliminate people coming down South Street into Clinton Ave, where we had a number of complaints of people exiting vehicles while stopped in traffic and just really not being good neighbors. And then we also wanted to add another officer to patrol neighborhoods south of Shufelt Road. We had some parking on Eldor. I know the fire department was concerned about getting apparatus through. They managed it, but it was not a good situation. So I firmly believe with the new, some of these new officers, and then again, I'm hoping that we don't have another turnout that we did for that concert. We'll be able to mitigate some of those issues moving forward. So that's the update on that. I know some folks may want to discuss that later on, but that's where we stand as an update from the PD.
Any questions?
So it's a lot to unpack, and that's very thorough, and I appreciate you putting it all together. I also saw that you had sent out an email with a pretty thorough analysis of what happened with the concert and what some of the responses of the department could be, including what you said about requesting additional officers. You received it, that's great. You had some other ideas about discouraging people from using side streets, and I thought you had a good handle on it, so I don't really need to dive into it any more than you already have. So I think you're going in the right direction as far as the concert's concerned. And the Gillette events. I did want to mention just briefly something that is concerning to me. I talked to you about it earlier today, which is you mentioned the overdoses. They're down. That's great. I do think it's a cyclical thing where we've been down the path where they've been up and fatalities have been up, and it's something that I would be prepared to happen again. I guess I do read the national news and I see it's happening elsewhere. Fentanyl and an opioid. It's a problem that's not going to go away. You and I talked about just the fact that we should be prepared as a town and a department to both do the follow-up for treatment, which is something that you put a lot of effort into. When there is an overdose situation, you come back and you make sure that you do the best you can to work with those people to not treat them as criminals, but treat them as almost victims and somebody that can be helped. But also, and you've had some successes with drug interdiction. And you have the NORPAC agreements with, I think you said 16 other
17.
17,
Yeah.
thank you. So that's great. I mean, that's something that I would just encourage you to continue with, and if we can get it off the streets before it hits it becomes an issue, then that's all the better. So I just wanted to just follow up on that and say keep on keeping on.
Yeah, well, we appreciate, and when we spoke earlier, the support you had offered our department in terms of continuing those investigations and the support from the town and ensuring that the officers were supplied with naloxone, which is a reversal drug for overdoses, is tremendous, and we can operate without that. So again, I appreciate your support on that in front as well.
Yeah, you have it, absolutely. That's all for now. I might want to come back again.
Sure. Jim?
Yeah, Chief, I wonder if you could just spend a few minutes. I know you've been having some discussions down with the residents in South Walpole around the crosswalk and the intersection down to the Common. If you could talk about what we've got going on down there and what the plan is going forward, that'd be great.
Sure. So yes, I did meet with some residents down there, and I certainly understand their concerns about the crosswalk located at the corner on Water Street, in the corner of Washington Street. Met with town administration as well as the DPW. And we had, I have on order some flashing crosswalk signs that are to be installed soon. We also installed some additional crosswalk signage in that area right now, one of them in the middle of the roadway to just bring awareness to that crosswalk. I could completely understand the concerns of vehicle travel coming from Route 1 down to Water Street and taking that right onto Washington Street. Unfortunately, the configuration of the intersection where that bend is very eased over when you turn onto Washington Street, it does almost just invite people to go a little faster than they should, and that is something that we've managed to try to enforce. We sent officers down once we were made aware of some issues in the crosswalks down there. We enforced, or we were in the area enforcing some of those problems. So that's kind of the steps we have taken at this point, relative to those complaints. And I believe Jim was also, yeah.
So, yeah, we're gonna follow up with a traffic engineer that's worked with us at the intersection of Washington, Poly, and Short. They've also worked with us on some of the downtown stuff. Carl's enlisted his services end of last week, so we're gonna do a deep dive in there. We know from some of the other traffic studies that were done a year or two ago what was suggested there with the common, but we're also gonna ask them to look at some other traffic calming measures that we can install a bit quicker. So I expect, depending on cost, and maybe we'll be able to absorb that in some of the DPW budgets, we may come back to you relatively quickly if they can turn it around before the end of the fiscal year with some quick recommendations that we could ask you to implement as the road commissioners down there. He had some innovative ideas that came over about 4:30, 5 o'clock today, so I thought they might work. So.
Good. I think we need to do something. And I know you put the sign in the middle of the crosswalk, but
And Drew did install some more additional signage down there with the highway, and he ordered, the flashing lights do take some time on the back
Yeah,
order,
sure.
but those are immediate things that we
Yeah.
could do down there.
Yeah.
So.
So I just want to make sure that that's moving forward and that we're,
Absolutely.
being responsive to the residents down there. Could you also talk a little bit about Cobble Knoll and Concord Drive and what you've got going on there?
Sure. So as part of the parking lot expansions relative to Gillette Stadium, we went up and spoke to some of the residents earlier today about some signage, event, no parking, prohibited parking, tow zone parking during events only. They seemed open to it. They seemed to think that it would mitigate the quality of life issues that will result from that parking lot expansion. Again, the additional officers, the request that was submitted previous to this request before the concert, also will help to address some of those issues. We did request 2 officers to increase patrols, parking, to again, prevent things from happening, which happened this past weekend again. The folks I talked to said this weekend wasn't terrible with the concert, which I'm happy about because it seemed like it wasn't very good anywhere else. So they had a pretty good go of it, but the concern would be when this expands, what will happen next. So I think the signage would likely be an effective way, especially with us being able to enforce that. As the police, if there's no signage, we can't do much about a car on the side of the road. If there's a no parking sign, tow zone sign, we can manage those things much easier. So I think that would be a good course of action going forward.
Yeah, I think that's really important to get the signage resolved and also the 2 additional detail officers for that area. If you heard anything, I know you submitted the request, have you heard anything back from them on those 2 detail officers?
So it seemed as if through my conversation with the director of the traffic details just yesterday, that was to be considered as the lots are closer to completion, and that these officers that we had got for the concert events were more of an immediate case by case. So again, we submitted the request. We would certainly like to push them to get those filled to eliminate some of those problems.
I would. I don't think we want to have any time slip by. We've got the immediacy of all the work that we've been doing with the Foxborough Planning Board, and I know that the craft group has made commitments, and I think we need to hold their feet to the fire on that.
Absolutely.
And I don't think it should be about waiting until the lots are closer to completion, because who knows what that's going to mean. Right. They have a problem down there today. So I think it's going to be really important to make sure that we get those detail officers in place.
Yeah. Okay, there's weekly stadium event meetings up there, so we will attend and push this further.
That'd be great.
When
Thank
you
you.
say, I'm sorry to interrupt you, so when you say closer to completion, does that mean it's been approved or is it still pending approval? for the parking lots?
It's been approved.
Yeah.
Has been
The Foxborough Planning Board at their most recent meeting
I didn't see that.
approved the plan submitted by the craft group, so they're gonna be a couple of new lots and expansion of existing lots, and as I think you all know, at least one of those new lots is coming, in my view, ridiculously close to the neighborhood.
And we had made requests to temper that and to make accommodations. Did they
And they
listen
did,
to our requests?
they did do some things for us. For example, the original plan had no berms, it had limited plantings, it had no noise abatement fence. Those things have all been added.
They have not shrunk the size of
The problem is the lots are still the lots, and the noise is the noise, and the traffic is the traffic, and all that. So, I think it's an improved plan over what was originally proposed, but it's far from ideal. And so I want to just make sure that we are, really holding their feet to the fire on this, and don't let them, dilly-dally at all on this.
Understood.
Okay, thank you. And if you need help from us, and I don't mean to speak on behalf of the board, but I assume I've got support on this, that,
Yeah, you do.
we were in force down there at those planning board meetings. So I have personally spoken to the planning board members down there, and if there's an issue, we should just go and talk to the planning board people, and they'll make it happen, I'm sure, because they actually were, given what they were trying to accomplish, economic development-wise and all that, they clearly were sensitive to the fact that this was, difficult for the residents down there. So I know that if there's any dilly-dallying, as I said a minute ago from the craft group, I think we can work through the planning board and get that resolved. Okay?
Outstanding.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Chief, thanks for the update. Just for anybody in the audience, if there were people here that wanted to talk more about traffic, now's not the time. We have a packed agenda for the next hour or so. But the chief is going to stick around. We do have open forum later on. You can formally ask a question in open forum, or you can talk informally with the chief as we wind down the meeting. So anybody who really wants to talk about traffic and abatement and all those things, you'll get an opportunity to do that later. I just wanted to let you know that. So thanks, chief.
You're welcome.
I think we have some appointments coming up.
We do. Okay, so first, everybody's here, right? Okay, outstanding. First, we have Margaret McCrossan. She's a native of Attleboro, Mass. She got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Worcester State University. She went on to went on to join Attleboro PD in 2017. Has been a member of that department ever since. While she's been with Attleboro PD, she became involved in a program called Women on the Rise, which gives her an opportunity to work with middle school age girls in the Attleboro schools and teach them about leadership and really become a role model in their lives. I think that was a great way, when that was brought up during the interview, a great way to engage the community and to build rapport with the young people in the community and be a positive influence on their lives. And to us, that meant the world, especially with our commitment to community engagement, community policing. It seemed like it was a no-brainer. She'd be a great fit with us. When we met with her, she was displayed a tremendous amount of passion for law enforcement, and I believe that she certainly has the qualities needed to be a real asset to not only our department, but as well as our community. So without further ado, Margaret.
Welcome.
Hi. Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Mark Allen. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
Nice
you.
to meet you, sir. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Chief, I gotta tell you, it's the first time someone came up to the board at the beginning of everything, so I'm impressed. You got it.
Welcome. We've read all your materials that you submitted. We're glad that you're here. Is there anything else you'd like to say to us or anybody who happens to be watching at home?
Well, thank you guys for having me, and I'm really thrilled about this opportunity to join this police department. I've been really grateful to have my time in Attleboro for the past 4 years, but they just have not been able to give me the type of community policing that I'm looking for, and that's when I found Walpole and just the amazing efforts that Chief Kelleher has made to just really amp up the community policing in Walpole and get the police officers engaged in almost every aspect of it is really something that appeals to me, and I'm really excited to hopefully get to run a program similar to that I ran in Attleboro.
Great. Do we have any questions?
It sounds really exciting, like you have a lot of ideas that you want to bring to bear. Can you tell us a little bit about the Women on the Rise program? It sounds like you are pretty excited about that. And
Yeah, so it worked out really well in Attleboro. It was typically like about a 12-week program. We had, it was in conjunction with the Attleboro YMCA. They would bus the girls from their middle schools to the YMCA, which is where we would all meet. And each week we would have a new agenda. We tried to keep it separate from that of what would be a DARE program. Instead, maybe focus on self-confidence and self-esteem and wellness and just kind of growing up as a young woman in Attleboro. We would go on different, more or less field trips each week and just do different things with them just to get them away from home and in a different environment and keep them off of the streets or in different habits that would probably not be the best for them at such a young age.
yeah, that sounds exciting. It sounds like you could really make a lot of, bring that into Walpole. So that'd be great.
Jim?
Just welcome, congratulations. Obviously, you bring a lot of experience to the role, and we are excited to have you join the force and look forward to working with you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Jim, would you make a motion?
I will. Motion to appoint Margaret McCrossan to the position of police officer.
Seconded?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next up, we have William Bento. He's a native of Medfield, Massachusetts. Got his bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Fitchburg State College, University in 2020. He participated in a program there, which gave him the opportunity to go straight into the police academy upon completion of his undergraduate program, which was really unique. He recently also just completed his master's degree, also from Fitchburg State. He joined Medfield PD upon his graduation from the academy in 2020. He's been a member of their department since. During his time there, it became apparent to us that he's a very self-motivated individual and very enthusiastic about law enforcement. He had sought out a number of trainings to better himself as a police officer and to become more involved. He went to commercial vehicle enforcement training, and he's also a health and wellness instructor, which is incredibly important in this day and age. He started the first ever commercial vehicle enforcement unit with the Medfield Police Department to ensure that the commercial vehicles that are operating on roadways do so in a safe manner. It's a very technical, involved training. And to show that initiative as a young officer is really quite impressive. He also volunteers his time with the Medfield High School baseball team, where he works to build rapport with the younger members of the Medfield community, and to see the police officer become involved with the sports program. It's a great thing to see, and it really impressed us when we met with him. So again, as such, after meeting with him and seeing how motivated he is and how enthusiastic he is about community policing, I thought he'd be a great fit for our department, and looking forward to having him join us. So. Will, want to take him up? I guess you got to shake everybody's hand.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
New standard.
Welcome. As I said before, we've read all your paperwork. Is there anything else you'd like us to know about you?
I would just like to say thank you for the opportunity, everyone involved with this whole process. I'm excited to become involved with the community of Walpole, to work with the men and women of this department. So I'm just really thankful to be here.
Great. We're glad to have you. Let me,
Say we're glad to have you, and congratulations.
Jim?
Yeah, ditto. Welcome, and again, look forward to working with you. Obviously, you've got great experience, and you're well qualified, and welcome aboard.
Jim, would you make a motion?
I would be pleased to. Motion to appoint William Bento to the position of police officer.
Second?
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Congratulations. Anything else you want to say right now?
No. Again, thank you for having us tonight. Probably going to take a couple of quick pictures, but I promise I'll be back to discuss the traffic. And
Okay.
I'm not going to leave, so I'll just go with that.
Yeah, so if you're here for the new police officers, you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting. You're welcome to go out in the hallway, take photos, do whatever you want. And we're going to keep going on for another hour or so. You don't want to hang here with us. So congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Sure, thank
I'll
you.
be back.
So next up, we have Fire Chief Tim Bailey. Come on up, Chief.
Good evening.
Welcome.
The last time I was before you was on March 1st. The numbers I'm going to give you on our call volume are from the first of the year up until this point. 1,586 emergency calls, 2,768 permits and inspections for a total of 4,354 total calls for service. We're up about 80 runs from last year at this point on the emergency side. As you know from last year's report at year end, last year was our highest year by far, and we're still keeping up with that pace. We've had a couple of med flights since we last met, and 2 large lost fires. Actually, one of them was on the night that we had our last quarterly, was right afterwards. That was at Windsor Gardens, and we had a major house fire at 38 William Street. This past weekend, we had a crane collapse and another med flight up on one of our neighborhoods. That individual was critically hurt and was flown into Boston. On the ambulance, we have a current balance in the account of $2,461,000. We had a slight billing issue with our billing agent, as the board is aware. I made you aware of that. I am working with town administration and council on that, and hopefully we'll have a remedy to that very shortly. The budget is very tight on the expense side. On the salary side, we're doing okay, and we're just continuing to watch that as we continue on to the rest of the year. In the past, we've had to transfer some monies from one line expense side to salary or vice versa, and we may have to do that again, but I will let the board know as we get closer to the year end. On the capital end of things, really no change other than the new ambulance that was approved a couple of weeks ago. We have a meeting with them to finalize it next week, so that should be all set, and we'll have that in place on the ordering end of things. Grants really haven't changed that much since the last time I met. SAFE grants are still the same. Senior SAFE is the same. We did finish out our equipment grant that we had gotten from the Department of Fire Services for new meters. Those meters are all in service and on the apparatus as we speak. We're still waiting to hear on the AFG, Assistance to Firefighters grant that we put in for several months ago. That is for some training that we'd like to have done. And the SAFER grant for the 4 additional firefighters has not come out as well. That's delayed on the award letters for another month, so we continue to watch those as we move forward. On the training side of things, our driver training continues. We have many new folks that are on the department. We're trying to get them all up to speed with the driving. Our driving program is very extensive, and it takes a while to get them through, but most of them have jumped right into it, and we're progressing very nicely with that. We also had some training on lithium-ion batteries, which are becoming more and more prevalent, and the issues with them for firefighting is quite extensive, so we've done some training on that. We've also worked on our water operations training for some of the bodies of water that we have. We get our boat out once or twice a year just for training purposes, just so that we're ready and up to speed with how to use that if and when the need arises. On the personnel side of things, we had 1 resignation and 1 promotion. Alan Hover was promoted to lieutenant in fire prevention. He has just completed his fire prevention officer class, and he's doing extremely well in that position. He's been in there for about 6 weeks now. The academy continues to be a problem for our new hires. The current filling of vacancies for the academy, Stowe is currently filling January of next year. Bridgewater is filling in November. They have 3 spots left. And the Springfield class, which we normally don't send folks out to because of the distance involved, back and forth every day, is filling the October class. So it still continues to be an issue. The Stowe class, the Stowe Academy is trying to up their numbers from 24 a class to 36 a class in the fall. And hopefully that will happen, but they can't give us a definitive on when that will happen yet. So if and when that happens, they would back down and bring some of the other folks that are put into other classes and back them back down into the earlier classes. So hopefully that happens and we can move forward. Currently, well, when we were here the last time, at the end of that last week, We had 3 members graduate from the Fire Academy, Erica Thomas, Chris Longo, and Sean Sarney. I'd like to report that Sean Sarney finished number 1 in his class, and that was a great honor for him. And for us as a department, we haven't had anyone in my tenure finish as number 1, so that was a great accomplishment. Elizabeth Hunt is in the academy right now. She'll be graduating on June 24th. Francesca Angelini started the academy on Monday. She'll be graduating August 5th. We have 4 firefighters going in the September 19th class, 1 in the October 24th class, 1 in the November 7th class, and the candidate that I'm bringing before you this evening is to be determined. So, and on the injury front, we still have 1 long-term injury who's going through process right now with the retirement board. We're hoping to get a meeting with the board in the next month or 2 to come to a final settlement with that. And I have another firefighter who's out with a back injury who should be coming back in the next week or 2. And the last thing I'd like to say is just the night before the 4th, we are actively seeking donations for the night before the 4th. Important to note that it is on July 2nd this year, not on the 3rd. We had to move it because of scheduling with the fireworks company. So we'll be getting some message boards out and other means out to advertise that. It is out there and many people are aware of it, but we keep harping the fact that it is on the 2nd. So I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Sure. Any questions?
Yeah, Chief, thanks for the update. Just on the subject of personnel and your struggles with getting firefighters through the academy, how are we doing with staffing? I know we had, and specifically I'd like to talk a little bit about Ladder 1 and your ability to staff Ladder 1, whether it's on recall. Are you still utilizing recall to do that?
Yes.
As needed? What are your...
The only way we can staff it right now with the current configuration and the staffing numbers where we're at, which we're pretty much... Once March came and we got the 3 firefighters on board, we were able to have 1 extra on each group. So our minimum currently is at 9. Prior to them getting out, we were 9 for 9.
And your goal is 11? Is that where we're trying to get to?
11 on duty every day is the goal. In order to do that, we would need to have 13 on shift. With the current hires that we have, we'll have 2 12s and 2 11s. We still have a little ways to go.
We're getting there.
We're getting there, yes. What I eventually would like to do is to take the ambulance that's in Station 2 and bring them back uptown, because we cross-staff with our 2 ambulances. And in order to get the tower out faster, especially when we get up to the 11, having both ambulances running centrally out of the same fire building would give us the opportunities to cross-staff that piece if and when we needed it.
Understood.
We still will have to rely on recall because we still need to recall all the members to meet the numbers that we're supposed to have, but that would definitely help with the situation.
If I'm looking at some of the graduates pending in the academy, looks like June and August, we have a couple pending graduation, and then 4 in September, is that right?
Correct.
So after that, September 19th date.
The 4 in September will graduate November 28th.
Understood, okay. So then that will be hopefully when things are...
That'll be a big jump for us once we get those, the 2 that are currently in and then the next 4.
Okay, just trying to get a sense of...
Once we get those 6, we'll be in a much better spot.
Sure, it gives me a sense of where we are and where we're heading. Thanks.
And it's no fault of anyone, it's just getting them through the academy.
Yeah, we're looking to solve the problem, so...
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate that.
Sure, I'm all set.
Ben? I would just reiterate, I think we're doing the right thing by hiring new firefighters and getting them in the line to go to the academy. I know that's sort of a slow and kind of painful process, but it's the process we'll have to stick with until they can open up some of those academy classes and do it quicker. So, I think we're doing all the right things, and I'm glad for that. So, Jim?
Yeah, thanks, and ditto what Mark just said. Question on the night before the 4th. I know you said you're still actively seeking donations.
That is correct.
So, do you have any idea, like how much more money you need in order to?
We are just about halfway.
Halfway. And that's.
You want a dollar amount?
Yeah. Well, I think
we're about 15,000 short at this point.
And the reason I like to get it out there is
we do most of our fundraising in this next 6 weeks.
Yeah.
anyways, every year typically, so
Okay.
it's a strong push.
I just think it's important for people to hear the number, because I know we're running a little behind, and, you know, it's such an important part of what we do here in Walpole, and, you know, we want to make sure it's a great fireworks display like it is every year. And so, you know, hopefully get the word out through all the people that are in the room here today, and of course, those that are watching on TV. Thank you, Chief. Good report.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You want to do the
Have an appointment? Yep,
Okay.
that'd be great.
So this evening, I come before you with a candidate for firefighter paramedic, and I'm recommending that we hire Jared Fahey. Jared is a 10-year veteran of the United States Navy. He's a graduate of Attleboro High School and Purdue Global University. He has a Bachelor's of Health Science from there. He is very energetic. He is also a personal trainer, and he will be a great fit with our department. And I'd like to introduce him to the board.
Please,
Jared?
welcome.
How are you?
Good, how you doing?
Good.
We've read all your paperwork. I think you heard me
okay.
a little while ago, so why don't you, if there's anything else you'd like us to know, now's a good chance to do that.
I don't know. I think if do you want to know anything else?
How about, let me ask this question, like, what made you consider Walpole? So,
So actually, it was I went to middle school here at Byrd, and then I did my freshman year at Walpole High, and then I moved to Attleboro. And Let
Okay.
me tell you, that was a big transition. So, I love this town. My Nana's actually lived here for her whole life. So, and my whole family actually, they're from Walpole. So, I love this town, for sure.
great, welcome back to Walpole.
Thank you.
Let me see if there's any other questions or comments.
No, it's a great opportunity to serve the community, and we're glad to have you back.
Absolutely.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, 10 years of military service, thank you for that, and that'll, you know, stand you in good stead when you think about leadership skills and all that. On top of that, you've got a very extensive resume, a lot of training. You've accomplished a lot. And so welcome aboard. We're fortunate to have you joining the force.
Thank you.
Jim, would you make a motion?
I'll be happy to. Motion to appoint Jared Fahey to the position of firefighter paramedic.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry I got stumped on that.
That's okay.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Chief. And as I said earlier, if you're here for the firefighter appointment, you don't have to stick around for the next hour for the rest of the meeting. Feel free to go out in the hallway, take pictures, chat. That would be great. Next up, emergency management interviews and vote for an appointment. Welcome.
Good evening.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Want to go one at a time?
Sure, one at a time would be great.
I'm Kathy Vachon. I'm a retired RN. I've been on the CERT team for 16 years, as well as the MRC. Been very active, done Walpole Day, Walpole Town Forest, Recycle Day, 21 clinics last year with the MRC. And I want to continue, doing what I'm doing. I'm currently coordinating the training for the new CERT members that we have going. So this will just make it more official.
Great. I'll say this once, but it applies for all of you. I think one of the things that makes Walpole a great town is the number of people who are willing to volunteer their time to help others in the community. And that's a great thing. And I would say thank you to all of you for volunteering. So thank you. Jim, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I will move that we appoint Kathy Vashon to Emergency Management, Civil Defense for an indefinite term.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome. Good evening. My name is Philip Russell. I've been with the Walpole Emergency Management CERT for about 15 years. Before that, I worked for the state in facilities, ran a college, so I was a campus police officer at a time. So I've always been involved in trying to help people and stuff. We do get involved with the MRC and everything else here, try to get training in case, and hopefully we never have to use it in a disaster. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great, thank you.
Jim?
I'll move to appoint Philip Russell to Emergency Management, Civil Defense for an indefinite term.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations. Good evening.
Welcome.
Evening.
I'm Jeff Martin. I'm a town resident. I've been with the Emergency Management Group for about 12 years now, starting out with Roger Turner, and then on with John. And I'm a retired electrical engineer and ham radio operator, which began my association with the group and with Roger.
Great. Thank you for your service.
Thanks for volunteering.
Jim?
Motion to appoint Jeff Martin to Emergency Management, Civil Defense for an indefinite term.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Welcome.
So next up, we have Bill Willith, Walpole Food Pantry President. Discussion of a Walpole Food Pantry and possible site on Stone Street. I know there's been a lot of discussion about the Stone Street location. We're not here to make any decisions tonight. This is really just part of an ongoing dialogue. Would like to know more about what the food pantry's doing. I know they did great work and have been doing great work for many years, especially during COVID. And I'm very supportive of the idea. You know, what the location may or may not be, we're gonna have some questions for Bill about that. But we're not making any decisions on locations tonight, so welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for having us. I'm here also with three other board members. Tim Michaud is our treasurer.
Why don't you have them stand up, just so everybody can.
Tim. Janet Rennie is the co-president, and Diane Sullivan was recent co-president. I sent a letter to town administrator about a month ago, and it summarizes, it was from the Walpole Community Food Pantry Board, and it summarizes why we're petitioning to get some land. Would it be okay if I just read that?
Sure. Yep.
Okay. This was a letter dated to Jim Johnson on April 12th. Hi, Jim. I am writing to you at the request of the Board of Directors of the Walpole Community Food Pantry. Over the past 3 years, the pantry has grown significantly. We have been able to identify and support the most vulnerable residents of Walpole, the food insecure. In that time, we have substantially increased the amount of people we serve and the amount of nutritious food we provide. As you know, last year, out of necessity, we leased space at Walpole Park South. This facility allows us to store and package food, but does not allow us to offer a shopping model for our customers. Everything is prepackaged at the facility, and then it is either delivered to customers or distributed from an off-site facility, which happens to be Walpole High School. Our board has determined that our previous facility at 1303 Washington Street will not meet the future needs of the town's food insecure, and our current lease facility, among other limitations, will not allow us to offer our customers choice while shopping. Dennis Fliss, town administrator, identified a town-owned 24.1 acre parcel of land on 144 School Street. It's actually the land on Stone Street. That has the potential of being a site for the new Walpole Pantry. Preliminarily, we are encouraged by the feedback received by town engineering and conservation. We would like to pursue the opportunity of leasing the land from the town, similar as how we currently do at 1303 Washington Street. We encourage and appreciate any support from the town on this crucial project. Town facilities, police station, fire station, COA, and library are all state-of-the-art facilities that we can all be proud of. Certainly, a new state-of-the-art pantry for our most vulnerable residents will positively reflect on the town and its values. I heard there was some social media buzz over the weekend, and I think I'm here to clarify. If people have questions, I'm happy to answer them if I can. So I'd like to, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now, or
Yeah, let's start with some of our questions. So, I know that Jim Johnson sent you a few questions a while back, or somebody did. You know, whether it's the Stone Street site or somewhere else. I wanted to sort of start off at, what else have you thought about in terms of sites? I know, I think Jim had suggested you go take a look at Johnson. Johnson's gonna become available, you know, in a couple of years, you
Right.
know, when the kids have moved out and we've had a chance to do a little work over there. So what do you think about the Johnson site?
we actually went, I've asked Donnell Murphy, who's our landlord, to help me go through this process. This is all new to me. So Donnell graciously accepted, and he's, you know, kind of an advisor. He also offered his engineer to help us out with the project. So we, the three members that I mentioned, have visited the site at Johnson Middle School. We toured it 3 times. Once, Dan Merrickin from Legacy, who's the engineer, went and took a look at it, and it's just not feasible. The Johnson Middle School is 3 stories, so the ground level is actually where there's one loading dock. It's 10 feet in the air. I'm not sure why it was configured that way. The basement floor, there's a lot of concrete partitions, so it's pretty chopped up. We did take a look at the gym, because the gym, we need an area. So at Walpole Park South, I believe they're 18 or 19-foot ceilings. So we're not just a pantry, so we have a warehouse that has pallet shelving. So, and we have a forklift and pallet jacks. So we move product and put them up on pallet shelves. So we really need a 20-foot ceiling. So we looked at Johnson Middle School with the potential of the gym, but my understanding is the gym has kind of been designated for the rec department. So, and even if we were to get the gym, it's not the ideal site. So the finding of Legacy Engineering was it wasn't feasible to go to the Johnson Middle School.
Let me open it up for other questions from the board members, and I have a few more, but we'll give everyone a chance. Clint?
Sure, I'm gonna start, I'm just curious on funding. So do you have funding lined up, and what is the source of your funding? I know you're asking us to give you access to the land and almost to build it. So what's the source of your funding? And is the funding only available for what you're planning at this site? For example, if you went to Johnson, let's say we could make Johnson Middle School work, but it required $800,000, I'm just throwing out numbers, $800,000 in renovations. Would that money that's available to do what you're doing, proposing on Stone Street, be available to shift elsewhere?
Right. We do not have the funding lined up. I thought it would be appropriate to first get the commitment from the town for the land. We have gone out, we're working with Greater Boston Food Bank, and we are actually, it's a designated distribution site for Greater Boston Food Bank. I believe strongly, I have reason to believe that they are going to be contributing. I'm not sure the amount. So one of the questions that was asked, Jim asked, was, you know, how much is it going to cost? I'm putting an estimate of $3.5 to $4 million. I don't know what piece of that will come from Greater Boston Food Bank. We also have had some discussions with folks in town that are very supportive and donate to the pantry. I also spoke with the community development director recently, and he said there could possibly be some state money. So there's several sources, but I wanted to first, you know, Greater Boston Food Bank is not going to commit funds until they know we have a site picked out.
Can I ask you, so is the Greater Boston Food Bank's support, you mentioned distribution site, is it contingent on this being a distribution site? In other words, do they have a bigger picture in mind, or are they willing to solely support Walpole and a food pantry that only supports Walpole? I think it sounds like you might have Your plans might involve sort of the regional community, am I right about that?
Okay, yeah.
There's multiple questions in there, I'm sorry.
It is, that's okay. We helped, since we have a warehouse and an assembly area, and we have 2 large refrigeration units and 2 freezer units. They came to us last May and asked if we could be a cross-dock for them.
Understood, yeah.
So they have several cross-docks throughout the state. One of them is in Framingham, and they had to put in a new floor and a new freezer in Framingham.
Huh?
So we agreed to do it, and it worked out well. They came with 2 tractor-trailer loads, 1 day a week, and we distributed to 7 or 8. So they, I'll explain how that works I'll just fast forward now. They came to us in the spring of this year and asked if we would be a shared distribution site. So prior to working with Greater Boston Food Bank, we used to go into Boston every Friday and would bring in 2 or 3 vehicles and would load up personal vehicles. We had a pantry van and then some personal vehicles. So what this allowed us to do is they actually deliver the food to us. So they come in 7 a.m., and this has been since 4 or 5 months ago. They come in to us 7 a.m. every Friday morning. They're gone by 7:30. 7:30, an agency comes in, so we unload ours, and we unload the other 3 agencies, and we sort them. An agency comes in at 7:30, we put it on their vehicle. An agency comes in at 8, we put it on theirs. An agency comes in at 8:30, we put it on theirs. So it's a broader outreach. I think that's gonna help us with grant funding. If we're distributing to agencies in Martha's Vineyard, North Taunton, Attleboro, Dedham. It's philanthropic. I'd like to help the most people we can. However, there's a motive behind it where we could actually get some capital from.
Yeah, no, it sounds like there would be a benefit to the Walpole Food Pantry to serve in that function. Could I just explore that a little bit more? So if we were a distribution site, could you define that so I can understand?
Sure.
Is it 5 towns? Is it a whole region? Is it 20 towns or more?
We don't know what to expect with this pandemic and now the inflation. We don't know what is, I hate to project the future, but I can tell you right now, we have 7 pantries that we distribute to.
Okay.
3 of them come in every Friday morning. So we'll have certain 3 will come in the first Friday, then the next Friday there'll be another 3. So we have 1 tractor trailer coming in on Friday morning. It's out of there by 7:30, and then 3 agencies come in after that at half-hour intervals.
And
So
I
they're
think-
out of there by 9 o'clock.
I think I'm sorry to take up, I just want to explore this a little bit more. So I do think the neighbors probably would ask, so I'm going to ask on their behalf before
Sure.
they do, about the trucks in 7 a.m. and what kind of trucks and how loud and how frequent, and is it 7 days a week or is it 3 times a day? Could you just
Yeah.
explore that a little bit?
Currently, it is 1 tractor trailer, which is 53 feet. It has 22 pallets of food. It's once a week. They come in at 7 o'clock. They're gone, but this week they were gone by 20 past 7. Then a box truck, for example, a Penske truck will come in, a refrigerated, a reefer truck will come in. We'll load him. It takes 15 minutes to load 5 pallets. He leaves. The next agency will come in, Attleboro YMCA, Hockomock YMCA. They come in and they have a box truck. Then the third agency will come in. It could be Project Just Because. And they come in with it's like a small moving van, and that donates their van to the Project Just Because.
And this is a weekly occurrence?
It's
or is
weekly,
it-
every
yeah,
Friday.
Every Friday. And what happens on Monday through Thursday? In the weekends?
Monday, I have an admin day, so we're off.
Okay.
Tuesday, we load up for our Wednesday. We have volunteers come up. We have probably 12 to 15 volunteers that come up. We have local people. Then we have the Church of Latter-day Saints come in on Tuesday afternoon. They pre-package boxes of shelf-stable food. Some of them pre-package protein, meats, fish in plastic bags.
Yeah.
We also package up produce and dairy. So just about every week, we give people eggs, cheese, milk, yogurt, fruits and vegetables, mangoes, apples, oranges, bananas.
Can I just clarify? So
Yeah.
what you're describing is your operations currently, and are we to expect that it'll continue, or it'll probably multiply if it's a distribution facility? Is that true, or can you predict that, how that would play out?
It's hard to predict, because, I can say, before we signed up with the Boston Food Bank, we were doing approximately 4,000 pounds per month, which sounded like a lot to us. Since that time, so at the height of the pre-pandemic, we were doing 40,000 pounds of food per month.
Okay.
At the height of the pandemic, we were doing over 80,000 pounds a month. It's come down. We came down to roughly 40,000 pounds a month again, but earlier this year, it had another spike. And what we're seeing is a lot of younger families. And anecdotally, I believe it's because of the cost of gas and inflation.
Okay.
So we have, to loop back, on Tuesday, we prepare all that, and we load up our vans. So we have 2 spots down behind this town hall. We have plugged in right now all the dairy and produce. We have another van that has all the shelf-stable food in it. Tomorrow morning, I'll be going up with Justin. We're going to be loading up all the frozen, and we have pies going out, New England apple pies. So we'll go up to the high school tomorrow. We get up there. We start every Wednesday. We have a distribution from 2:30 to 4. They start lining up at 2, and we average about 160 families.
That's great, yeah.
Of which 98% are from Walpole.
Okay. I'm all set for now. You can
Thanks.
ask me if you want.
And any questions right now?
Yeah, that was pretty comprehensive, Glenn. But kind of building on that, and I think a lot of that information is good. And I guess I'd start by just saying thanks for coming in. And I think these are really important conversations to have. Obviously, there are hundreds of families who are food insecure in Walpole and the surrounding community. So I really want to keep the focus on that in the back of our minds, right? Because we're very concerned about the location, and I know a lot of people are, and rightfully so. But what we're talking about here is hundreds of families in Walpole, our friends and neighbors, that can't put food on the table for their family and get it through this service and all these volunteers. To me, that's very powerful. So I really want to keep that front and center while we're going through this. So I'm really appreciative you coming in. And I know when, excuse me, I know when social media gets involved, it can really raise the temperature, it can politicize things and really kind of make people crazy. But I think it's important to have the conversation. So thank you.
I agree.
To kind of spin off of Glenn and talking about the trucks and some of your operations, you're talking about packaging and handing out at the high school. So with a new facility, whether it's at Stone Street or somewhere else, if you're able to have this, I think you referenced it as a shopping area. How does that work into this operational perspective? Again, Stone Street or wherever.
Yeah.
What does that mean and how does that work?
So what we've found is people really appreciate the fact that they have choice. So, if someone gave you a box of food that included peanut butter and rice and cereal, and you didn't like rice, it's kind of dehumanizing, I feel. So we started a pilot program at Diamond Pond Terrace and the Ponset View Terrace about 6 months ago, and we put the order in on Wednesday night. On Thursday morning, we'll drop off menus. So I could give you a copy of a menu, but people can select what they want of proteins, fish and meats and fresh produce, soups from Panera and Fresh Market. So I've seen, and again, anecdotally, people are really happy that they have a choice. Their whole mood changes. So they fill out the menu. We have about 10 volunteers every Friday morning. Sorry, not every Friday morning. It's the first and third Friday of the month. We have volunteers to pick the orders. So we give them this specific order. So we'll go to the Diamond Pond Terrace first, then the Ponce View Terrace, and give them their boxes of food, whatever they ordered. So, you know, in theory, it works because people like to have the choice. So by having a pantry where people can go in and pick it out, it just makes a world of difference.
Yeah.
And one thing we can't do now, we rescue food also. We rescue food at Wegmans and at Costco and at Gorelick Farms. We've stopped, well, we continue to take the product that we rescue, but we give it to agencies outside of town. We distribute to Bethany House, which is it's in Millis, and it's for women that recently get out of prison. We also distribute to Gillies House, which is a sober house for men in Rentham. We distribute to the Attleboro Interfaith Collaborative, which is 5 soup kitchens. So we give it to them because we, you know, if we get pomegranates from Costco, we don't want to put a pomegranate in everyone's box. But if pomegranates are sitting on the shelf and people can pick it out, a lot of people will pick pomegranates. You know, we can give out apples and oranges to everyone, but there are a lot of specific, and the choice is great. So we can tell, we used to distribute every week at the senior center, and people, you know, would come and shop. And we gave out twice as much food as we currently do to the seniors because they don't get the choice.
Right. And so what does that look like for the building and for this new structure in terms of the shopping? Like, what are the hours and people come? And
We haven't determined the hours yet.
okay.
You know, it's the old pantry used to be open Saturday morning from 9 to 11 every Saturday. And I think we have to be open more than that, and I think we have to continue with our delivery service. So we're trying, by designing that layout, we want to be flexible, because I don't know what's coming. You know, we were very fortunate to be associated with the COA and with the Walpole Housing Authority and the school nutrition department. So we had these relationships prior to the pandemic. And then when the pandemic hit and we were told that we were essential workers, we went to we opened up shop in the high school, in the cafeteria, and we went down the COA in the Murphy room, and we distributed from there. So, I think we have to have flexibility because we don't know what's coming. And one of the options that we sorely miss is the shopping model where people can go in and shop.
Right. And so to just emphasize your point, I mean, making sure that people are getting what they need and are getting the products that they need, that increases the engagement, right? People are more willing to come. It's a more humanizing experience, and I think that's the key there. So I think that would be it sounds like it would be a really important option to have that flexibility.
You know, we see, I again, anecdotally, I talk to the seniors when they come through the high school, and they're isolated.
Yeah.
You know, they want conversation, and they can't get it driving through the high school.
Right.
If they can come into a pantry and sit down, I personally, and this hasn't been approved by the board, but I see it more as like a wellness center. You know, I think there have to be, I'd like to have someone have life coaches and find out what the problem is. There's an underlying problem. You know, it's going to be permanent. Is it temporary? How can we help? Maybe they need clothes. Maybe they need transportation. The board strongly believes we shouldn't let people fall through the cracks. So we've gone out and identified the people that are food insecure. That's why there's been a big rise in the numbers. So we want to help as much as we can.
Right. So shifting gears a little bit in terms of questions to talking about the site again. And I know the Stone Street is one idea that's been mooted, and I know that folks have talked about JMS and you looked into that. What other sites around town? Because just kind of sitting here and off the top of our head, you think about, the former funeral home across from CVS on Main Street is vacant. There's a couple other buildings that are vacant. Over here on School Street, there's the factory that is vacant or soon to be vacant. There are a lot of areas where, In fact, those are old and decrepit buildings in many cases and could be torn down, and you could have new construction like this. So I know shoehorning it into like JMS or something like that isn't viable, but there is quite a few locations like that around downtown Walpole. Have you looked into that at all?
Of the ones you mentioned, we did, Donnell actually, he has a lot of contacts in town and
Sure.
knows what's for sale. And he called the folks, it's 50 School Street,
Mhm.
the old Walpole Woodworkers, and he
Right.
called, spoke to the owner,
Right.
and he's not interested. He said, no, I'm not selling or leasing.
Sure.
So, we check by Humble Pie. See, the closer we are to downtown, the more efficient we are. I can't tell you, because we're in the process of doing a client intake software where we'll know where everyone lives, their address. Currently, we don't, but we do know the people that we bring food to. So we have 100 people that we regularly bring food to. So we have 100 addresses, and over 80% of those addresses are within 1 mile of the proposed site. I know some people were talking about, the sports complex, and I looked, and we have no clients within 1 mile of that sports complex. And people were talking about Jarvis Farm, and if people can walk or get public transportation, it's very important. You don't want to inhibit them and put it out somewhere. Some people have one car or no cars, and you have to make it easier for them.
Yeah.
So a downtown location, I think, is ideal.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's someplace that the select board and that the town could help. And I know that you're working with Donnell, and he knows a lot of people and has good connections. So I think that's something that could use a little more research and maybe a little more forceful prodding to say, hey, we know their spots, right? And we just mentioned a couple off the top of our heads, and maybe they didn't work out.
Yep.
But I think that we could be a little more creative and a little more, forceful in having some of those conversations and trying to figure out, what is available and what's out there in those terms.
We're definitely open to that.
Yeah, okay. And so before I hand it over, just one other thing you said kind of triggered in my head something that, people are somewhat reluctant to come forward many times if the people who are in need are seniors, then they do want to come and have that engagement. To me, this is one of the greatest challenges that's facing our town, if not the greatest challenge. And the thing is, it's a silent challenge, right? There's 160 and probably more families that are food insecure in town. These are our friends and our neighbors, and they don't talk about it, right? They're not down the ball field or out on the sidewalk talking about how they can't put food on the table. It's a silent challenge. And so in order to meet that, we need to be creative and we need to come up with these solutions. And I think having a new facility, it seems like it's the right way to move forward, and we need to find the right spot for it. But it's a challenge that the select board, it's incumbent upon us and the town and really all of us as a community to come together and find a solution. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are gonna have to compromise to get to that solution. We're all not gonna get what we want, but I'm confident that we can rise to the challenge there. So thank you again for giving us all this information.
I looked at last month, April's numbers, and we distributed on a regular, either every week or twice a month, we distributed to 250 families from Walpole.
Yeah.
And if you add in the people that come maybe once a month, it's up to 300.
Right.
So it's about a little over 1,000 people. And I've broken it down actually with, just give me 1 minute. And this is from last month. We provided food to 81 seniors, 530 children under 18 years old, 457 adults, and as I said, 250 on a regular basis and 300 if you counted maybe once a month.
Yeah.
So it's out there, and there are still other people that are just embarrassed. There's the stigma of going through a line or waiting in line to get food or going to a food pantry.
Yeah.
And I think we have to break that down so we can get it to the people that need it.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Let me go to Jim.
Yeah, thanks, Bill, for coming in, and let me just say, you're doing God's work here. And I am amazed at what you and the others who work in the food pantry are able to do day in and day out, helping to solve what is a really difficult problem. And I admire it greatly. I'm very familiar with what you do I'm on the board of the Friends of St. Patrick, and as you know, we're one of your big supporters. And Donnell, I see at the back there, is the president of the Friends, and we're well aware of what you do and are very supportive. That all said, I'm not loving the site. So I would like to talk about that a little bit, and I'm not closed-minded on it, but I'm not sure it's the right place for a building of this size and so forth. And if we're gonna do this right, you really need to have a facility that operationalizes what you're doing. You know, as you talked about the high ceilings and all that. So I would like to have further discussion about alternatives, number one. But looking at this site, and you know, you probably, well, why don't I love the site? So first of all, even though it's a big site, it seems pretty cut up because of wetlands and things like that. As I look at the plan you've got, and that building is pretty far forward on the plan on Stone Street. There's not a lot of parking. There's some apparent limitations here, at least as I look at it. And so I think we need to go and take a broader look. And I'm not convinced Johnson Middle School is not an option. I'd like to really explore that and explore it hard. And I don't think, to my knowledge, I don't think anyone's committed that gym to anybody. I don't think we've decided what we're doing with Johnson Middle School yet. Heck, we haven't even started building the new building yet, and we're a couple years away. So I'm not convinced that's not an option. Obviously, you have explored this, and I respect that, but I would like to dig in on that a little bit further.
Okay.
What is this lot zoned for today?
That's what I was told when I bought the house, conservation.
That's,
I think that's a question that we would want to obviously understand, because there may be some limitations just
It's
based
not
on.
in the CBD, I checked that, so I know it's not in the CBD.
There might be some limitations just,
Okay.
you know, right there, Bill. So I think we need to look at that, and the wetlands are a complicating factor. The transference of the land is gonna be a big process involving bids and things like that. There's a lot to this, not to mention the fact that you know, we've gotta get you've gotta raise the money to build the facility and all that. So, excuse me. So, again, I couldn't be more supportive of the work you do, and it is very important. Those statistics that you're citing about the number of families, the number of children, the number of seniors, it goes on, and it is truly God's work. And as I said earlier, I admire that, and it's something that we've got to support, and I feel strongly about that. But I want to make sure we do it the right way. So I don't know what the next steps would be here to figure out, you know, other alternatives, other options, and going and figuring out what's the real right way to go about this. And I'm very happy to get very involved in it and help out, because I do think it's something we need to do. So I'm supportive.
Yep.
Just I'm not really convinced that this is the right site for it.
okay, I'd appreciate your involvement.
Yeah, and again, thank you for everything you're currently doing, and you know, I know that with a proper facility, you could do even so much more, and it is really needed. So thank you, Bill, you're doing just great work.
Well,
Zone residential.
Residential, okay. So it requires zoning change. There's a lot here, okay?
mhm.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Jim, did you have anything else you wanted to add, or?
No, just well, yeah, I do have a few things. We started, Bill, I was approached, I think it was last summer maybe, by this, with Bill and a few others. We did meet with Donnell around Christmas time. We did talk about Johnson Middle School. Obviously, this board has to discuss that, but there's some options there, you know, as far as, that's a 100,000 square foot plus building right there. The utilities are already there, the infrastructure's already there. They won't have to worry about a heating system if this board decides not to pursue it as far as selling it off or whatever else. There's some options there, and infrastructure's in place. When we talked, I thought it was about 4 or 5 million, Bill had mentioned. It's 3 or 4 million now, but my question always was, how are you gonna come up with the money? At the time, it was Greater Boston Food Bank would likely kick in maybe half that, but that's still a few $1 million you need to come up with. That was my concern. I think there's some space at Johnson that we could make work. We could do it the Walpole way and figure it out the way we always do with a lot of these things. I think there's some options there, but I think we fully need to vet that before going out. And, when I was the assistant 15 years ago, we designated a few parcels in this general area for a senior center and a library, and it locked up those parcels for a long time. And we weren't able to pursue a unified public safety building in this general area. And, it ended up working out great, but it kind of locked us out of certain sites downtown. And I hate to see us do that right now. Just my general feedback.
So does it make sense to try to have a follow-up meeting in June, with, Bill and, some of the people from the town, Donnell, if he wants to join, who are, some of the board members, and sort of dig into some of those details? Is that what makes sense? I'm sort of in the same opinion of Jim. I think you guys do great work. I'd like to find a way to make it work in the long term. It's not clear that that's the right site. Having not been very involved in any of these discussions, I also would be willing to, to join a discussion from time to time. And generally, we'd only have two of the select board members at a time. So, it could be, varying members at different times. But I'd be very, very open to that. Start to work through a process to find a site and maybe taking a look at Johnson and take another look at any other parcels that we may have as a town, or any of the buildings we know may become available. So does that make sense?
It does. Yep. Thank you.
I know that a lot of you came specifically because of the Stone Street site. In the interest of fairness and speed, if you had one or two spokespeople you wanted to have come up and speak for a couple of minutes, I'd be happy to let you do that. Or if you sort of got the gist from us that, we're not ready to do anything, we've started a process, they've started a process, we want to be involved, and we're not ready to do anything. We're not going to surprise anybody if later on we want to bring the Stone Street site back into play. We're not going to surprise you about that. We would let everybody know and hold another meeting and that kind of stuff. So is there somebody who would like to speak?
I don't want to get up there and speak, but can I make one suggestion?
Sure, absolutely.
You guys should walk through. There's a trail in the back, it's all wooded area, just to get a sense of
Sure.
what it's like there.
I have walked that site before, but it was
think
at
we've
least
all
10
done
years
that.
ago, so. But yeah,
I
there's
have
some,
interest because I abut that, my
Okay.
property is right next to it.
Yeah, me
that's a
and
good
him
suggestion.
are the closest ones to got there.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. Yes?
Hi, I'm Maggie Cherone.
Come on up to the microphone, just so that,
Diamond Street.
just so the people at home can hear you too. Welcome.
Hi, again, my name is Maggie Cherone. I live on Diamond Street. And we support, as you do, the mission of the Walpole Food Pantry, and we too believe he's doing God's work. But I think that there's some things that need to be considered here. The clients were mentioned previously, and I think we have to think about their feelings going to a central location like that, located right near the pool, a newly renovated playground, the library, and the ball field. There's not a lot of confidentiality on the part of the clients there, and there's a lot of shame and embarrassment, as Mr. Barrett referred to, with these families, and I think we need to take that into consideration. I think a more isolated or industrial site, or the Johnson, would be great because there's really nothing down there. Some other things that need to be considered for our neighborhood is the noise and light pollution, both during construction and during the operation of the food bank. The increased traffic was brought up. And then with, I've done some research online about, food storage and things like that. And I think one of the things that kind of goes by the wayside sometimes is rodents and rodent mitigation that's required with a lot of these facilities as well. And then what does that do to the trails, which have become quite popular in COVID years back there. So I just think that there's going to be a great impact in our neighborhood.
Okay, thank you for your
Thank you.
comments. Do you want to come to the microphone just so people can hear you at home? I always joke we have a vast TV audience, but there are people who actually do watch on TV, and this is being recorded, so others may want to listen. So
I'm
thank
Jean
you.
St. George, and I live at 159 Diamond Street. And there's a lot of water in there. There's a lot of water. I've lived there 54 years, and the water has increased because there's been erosion. The trees fall down during storms, and I can even see it in my own yard. But I think if you take a walk through the woods so you can see it for yourself, it's a sight that shouldn't even be considered. And like Maggie said, there's noise, there's rodents, there's animals in the woods. We have coyotes in there, we have fox, all kinds of animals. And it's a very small piece of property when you look at it. So from what Bill says, he wants a big area. And the privacy is another thing. But it's not the site. It just shouldn't even be considered. And I think I'm the one that's lived there the longest, and I've seen the water creep up and creep up. Fortunately, I'm up, but if I go down to the end of my property and look down, there's water. So if you take the trees down over there, what's going to happen? More water. So I think the best thing is just not consider it as a site.
Okay, thank you for your
And go to
comments.
something else.
How about
Thank
down
you.
at the back?
That's the Mass Bay Circuit Trail. Bay Circuit Trail. The Bay Circuit.
If we can keep it quick, we'll do a few more, so.
Talk fast. Hi, good evening. Alyssa Adriani. I'm on Lake Ave. Have lived there for 7 years, and we have benefited from the wonderful green space in our town. The green space that Walpole has is a treasure. We need to think very carefully about how we steward the community of Walpole. And by providing the food pantry resources, we're stewarding the people who live in our town and the people who come to our town for support. So I agree, this is a crucially needed resource. The wetlands, the green space that we have, once it's gone, it's gone. It's gone. And I think we need to seriously consider the environmental impact that this is going to have on us in the short term and in the long term. In the 7 years that my family has lived in Walpole, we've seen a significant amount of development and a significant amount of trees coming down because of development and because of natural disasters and storms. So I think we need to really, really take a good look at what other spaces may be available and quite appropriate for this kind of project that we really crucially need in this town. So how can we do both? By supporting the people who need food resources and by maintaining the green space that we are all here because we love and we care about. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mark? And then I'll go to you, okay?
Just in listening to it, I had three things that jumped out at me. So I've been attending those Walpole community events, and one of the top ones, people want to retain the green spaces. And so when you kind of look at the map, you're taking one of the key green spaces. It's the playground, it's everything. But the other thing that concerned me a bit, frankly, Bill, is he's looking at the Greater Food Bank to provide a lot of the funding, but we haven't talked to them about that yet. So as I listen to this, you have a facility, you're meeting the needs of the Walpole people, you've expanded the facility's mission by supporting the Greater Food Bank, and now you want to expand to meet their mission, not really to meet the people of Walpole. I understand people of Walpole want to walk down and shop, which is fine. I'm not talking about that. So my concern is if you look at this site and then you go to the Greater Food Bank, are they going to come in and say, no, if we're going to provide you the money, we're looking for the activity to do the following things. And so this facility, this site, may not even meet what they want. The other thing that concerns me about it is it's really a warehouse distribution. This is like an Amazon, because I think what'll happen is, right now you're distributing at the Walpole High School. Well, pretty soon it'll be, well, why are we taking the food and moving up to the Walpole High School? We should just have everyone drive down to the facility. And all of a sudden, this facility is gonna have trucks. It's going to have people picking up groceries, and which is, all well and intended. So my concern is just these basic questions. What does the Greater Food Bank really want if they're going to provide the funding? Is it going to become a huge distribution site? Right now we have the Italian-American driving school around that area. So there's a lot of activity down here that you'll just be adding to. And that's my major concern. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mark.
You'll be the last speaker, we've got other business we have to get to tonight too, so,
Catherine Miller, Center Lane.
welcome.
I just have a couple questions. I'm a local realtor. I am concerned about resale with more traffic and noise, but what I want to know is more on the environmental, and has a wetland delineation been done yet? And has the...
So from the info I read in the packet, it has been walked, but it hasn't been formally delineated, so I think the answer to that is
The
no.
Conservation Commission has walked the property?
Say again?
The conservation agent has walked it, I know.
She has walked it, okay.
Oh, yeah, many times.
Okay,
I mean,
thanks.
there is a brook.
Yes, I
live
know there's a brook
right-
there, yeah.
Yeah, and also there's maple, ferns, those are wetland plants. There's birch, I don't know if it's white birch is wetland, I don't know if it's white or not. And there's possible creeping dogwood, that's also a wetland.
I agree
plant.
that it would need to
But we
be
need
officially
somebody-
studied, agreed.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, I mean, there's all,
Can I
and what if...
answer that?
Sure.
So I asked the same questions to the engineer, and he said if the project moves forward, we would redelineate the wetlands with our botanist. So Lynn Searchy did go there, she flagged it. The stormwater management system, to address another person's question, will likely have to be installed under the parking lot. That is something we would design if the project moves forward.
All right,
So-
because another thing now, you're making it a non-permeable surface.
Yeah, let's not get into too many details
All
about
right,
that site. So we've
these
already
are all
said,
things that need to be thought of
I understand.
before you pick this. Where's the
Again,
water
we-
gonna run off to? Is it gonna overflow
again,
the
we're
pond?
not at that state where
Okay.
we're ready to go into any of those details. So
right.
I know that Bill has had some discussions about a lot of those things, but we haven't been involved in that, so. Do you have anything else?
Well, I mean, if they do that, maybe, that might just be a moot point, and you know that you can't use that property if we figure
So
these
from
things
my
out.
knowledge of having walked through that site, it was more than 10 years ago. Again, I'm not a botanist, I'm not a builder, but there's a lot of dry upland in there.
There is,
So-
and then I believe.
So I'm just saying,
Okay.
could it be a potential site? Based on my experience walking through it, yes, it probably meets those requirements.
Well.
That's not saying I think it's the best site.
Right. The
So-
definition of wetlands is not just standing water.
Let's not, yeah,
Okay.
let's not go down the
Well,
way. Okay, anything new that you can add?
Well, those were my questions. Maybe I have one more. I guess I don't, I know these are detailed, but I think these are things that have to be considered before you can consider that parcel of land. And there's
So-
a 100-foot buffer that's supposed to be.
So right now, we are not considering that parcel of land. From my
Right.
point of view, we're at the beginning of a long discussion with Bill about continuing to provide this service to the Walpole residents and people outside of Walpole too who need that. So we're not, right at the beginning, this was never set up to vote on any land tonight. It was really to continue the discussion with Bill, which
Would that
we're
ever
gonna
come
continue.
to a vote?
I'm sorry?
Will that ever come to a vote?
Will that parcel ever come to a vote?
Well, yes.
I don't know.
Okay.
So again, if you would like to be involved in some of the discussions, if anybody here knows of parcels of land or buildings that may fit, please feel free to reach out to me or to Jim and give us some ideas. We do appreciate everybody having come. I think the stuff that was spinning up on Facebook and some of the others is, getting people in a fearing position for the fact that a discussion is going to happen. I'm a big believer that it's important to have a discussion. I think sometimes Facebook spins things up to the negative before you've even had one word of conversation. So, as I said, the goal is not to surprise anybody. This was a discussion. It specifically did not say there was any chance of a vote tonight. So we entered into this as a discussion topic, and we will probably have more discussions going forward. I know we'll have some with Bill and some of the town employees and, hopefully Donnell and some of the others. But I think that we're at very close to the beginning of the discussion process rather than anywhere near the end. So,
Can I add one? Can I add
sure,
one thing?
Ben.
I know that either Glenn or I usually makes a plug when we talk about green space, and I appreciate Mark bringing it up because of all these committee meetings we've been having for the master plan and all these other things that are going on. The Walpole Trails Committee is always looking for volunteers, and as I think one of the speakers pointed out, the Bay Circuit Trail goes right through there. So it starts in Jarvis Farm, comes all the way up through behind the Council on Aging, cuts through the center of town, goes up past the VFW and up through to Adams Farm, and then, goes on all the way around up to the North Shore. And so one of the things that the Trails Committee has been working on, and really heavily in the past couple of years, is trying to make that connection from South Walpole to Jarvis Farm, so somebody could go out and walk and start in Jarvis Farm and end up at Adams Farm and literally traverse the whole Bay Circuit Trail through town. I think that's an awesome idea, and we do these first day hikes on January 1st, sponsored by the Trails Committee. So being able to make that whole circuit at once is great. This property is a key portion of that, right? So for people who are interested in green space, who want to help with that, who go through there, please, Google Walpole Trails Committee, look it up on the website, and get involved, because they can always use extra hands. That's my Trails Committee.
Okay.
Perhaps as a member of the Walpole Trails Committee, I might have made that speech, but thank you, Ben, for doing it on my behalf, and I second everything Ben said.
I had to get it in.
Thank
I had
you.
to get
Yeah,
it in.
thanks, appreciate it. Yeah.
Mark made me think of it.
Thank you.
Can I just comment on the trail?
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks.
There were I got off of Facebook a while back, but other people have informed me of some of the chatter that was going on. There was a concern with the trail, and so I emailed back and forth with Dan Merrickin, and he said, I haven't located all of the trail, but we did locate the closest part of it will be about 70 feet from our limit of work. It is well within the wetlands, and you can assure the town that there will be no disturbance to the trail.
Thanks.
There was another question on, they said it was on Blackburn.
Yeah, let's not go down the path of, everything that might have been said somewhere else. So I think that it was very helpful for you to come in. I think you heard all the boards say that we're very appreciative of all the work that you and your board members and your volunteers do, and would like to work with you to figure this out. And we're not intending to surprise anybody, so, if we're getting together and meeting, we will post those meetings, if we're gonna have more than 2 select board members come, or if we're really getting down to some sites we're considering. So, again, our goal is not to surprise anybody, and if any of you would like to be involved, of parcels, you have ideas, again, feel free to shoot those to me or to Jim or any of the other board members that you happen to know, so. Having said that, it's okay if you leave, you don't have to sit through the rest of our meeting, because we are gonna continue on with some other topics, so, again, appreciate everybody coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Mark, just to point out, Mark, just at the open forum, they might want to revisit that for the South Street intersection.
Oh, sorry, is there anybody here that came for open forum? Come on up. Sorry. Glenn reminded me that I didn't go to open forum, so. Welcome, Bill.
William Hamilton, Precinct 5, RTM. I was experienced in what happened on Saturday night. We had a serious problem on my street, Eldor Drive. People drove over lawns. People used bushes for toilets. People were not able to get home, and people were not able to do important errands like picking up their children. And the reason for that was there was not only one lane, all of Eldor Drive, bumper to bumper, stopped. Other people, when they heard the music, came out into the other lane, so then we ended up with both lanes going the same direction, bumper to bumper, and Winter Street was all, Summer Street was all tied up, Winter Street was all tied up, and there was a problem at the railroad crossing where I wasn't there, I didn't witness it, but I was told that one gate came down and the cars had to drive around it. And that's a serious problem, because if a train came and the gates weren't functioning properly and there was a mass casualty incident in that kind of chaos on Route 1, I came up Route 1 earlier, and that was all bumper to bumper. I went into the Bass Pro Shop, and they opened the stadium parking lots for tailgating at 3 p.m. There were cars there before 3 p.m., and they did tailgating. Now, there's also another wrinkle, this tailgating. I was told there was an estimate of about 90,000 people inside the stadium on Saturday night. Now, I can believe that because I participated in studies where we took satellite photos of the stadium and counted the heads.
Let's not go there. We know there were 72,000 people at the stadium. I don't think there were any more because I don't think they can physically get them. But we get the gist of it. The chief talked about the problems. We all got emails from people who told us about the problems. It was clearly the worst traffic problem we've had in at least 20 years. It's not the worst traffic problem I've ever seen there because I was stuck in a 4-hour traffic jam a long, long time ago. But it was definitely the worst from my point of view in the last 20 years. So I believe it. I agree with it. I think the football, I'm speaking just for myself, football fans tend to know where they're going, where they're going to park, what their plan is. Concert goers, especially on a 72,000 person concert, most of them have no idea where they're going. They don't have a plan, and it showed up. You know, the traffic was screwed up in Walpole, in Foxborough, in Sharon, everywhere. Like the whole area gridlocked. Although it sounds like there were a couple parts of town where they didn't get the gridlock they thought they would. But in general, it was a mess. It was a disaster. So we've heard the stories. The chief is aware. The fire chief is aware. And, you know, they're actively talking with Foxborough Stadium to try to make sure that never happens again. So that's kind of all I can say. I don't know enough. I'm not down on any of those streets. So we appreciate people sending their emails in with facts, and we can send those to the chief, and they can take it up with Foxborough. So chief is shaking his head at the back. So if you haven't already, you know, reached out to the chief, feel free to do that. Email is a great way to do it because it's a written record, and that's something he can, you know, reproduce and bring over there. So thank you.
Yeah, and you do have a duty as road commissioners to make that crossing at Summer Street safe. And it doesn't appear to be safe now, especially with safety equipment malfunctioning.
Understood. Did we hear from the?
They responded that, the chief and I spoke to that. Rich, do you mind talking to that?
Thanks, Jim.
From what I was told, so the transit police were on scene very quickly, and the deputy actually worked the detail down there that day. It was rectified within, 20 minutes? About 25 minutes or so. The fire chief corroborated that with his captains and said the same thing. So they were on scene quickly. It didn't help, of course, you know, with everything that was going on, but I'm not sure what the issue even was, but it was rectified fairly quickly.
Okay.
There was
Go ahead.
On the subject of the transit crossing, there was something in the 55 Summer Street agreement that requested that when the development goes forward, that they, I'm not going to probably reproduce exactly what needs to happen, but maybe extend it and make it safer, as Mr. Hamilton was saying. So there is something at that crossing that needs to happen, and it's going to happen when this development goes through as a condition of this development getting a CO. Is that ring a bell to you, Jim?
It does somewhat. I have to look at it. I can tell you, just since we're, talking about it, the chief and I today talked about getting rid of those access to South Walpole signs closed. That was put up probably 10 years ago as more of a deterrent out there. It really generally doesn't work. The chief, the deputy, the fire department, we just don't see a real purpose in closing that Water Street access there because it creates a real problem with them checking. Do you live down here? Can I see your ID? It was there as a deterrent. It really, everybody knows it's the ways Google Earth, Google Maps takes you that way. They know it's not there. So we're likely, unless you have an issue with that, kind of get rid of those signs. We are going to probably leave them at Pine Street with an officer in addition to what the stadium said they'd grant us with those 2 new officers up there. So did I miss that?
Correct. No, that's absolutely right. And I think we could move some of those signs if we may need them going forward to different locations to shut them off completely. They'd be more effective than where they are right now, the way things have been going.
So where the signs remain, there'll be an officer accompanying the signs?
So what I'm proposing is, in order to eliminate having the traffic come down off of Route 1 from Pine Street and clog up South Street at Clinton Ave, and all those neighborhoods off there that saw the greatest delays, is to close that Pine Street off at Route 1, Walpole Park South, so people have the ability to go right back on. And that'll eliminate those issues down there. So we like to put the sign there along with the police officer, yes. That's
Understood.
the location I'd like to put that. And if we determine, as we go forward, if there's a better place to adjust and move to make this work smoother, we'd like to do that going forward. But again, we'd like to try that first and eliminate those issues. And I really like to keep people out of the neighborhoods. That's the big thing. You know, I know Washington Street was a mess, and we did what we could with it. But the people in the neighborhoods, parking cars and just leaving them there. This just can't happen again, and that's, we'd like to avoid.
Got it.
All right, so here's my plan. We'd like to get through the rest of our agenda. If anybody would like to talk to us as select board members or the chief, it looks to me like we have about 15 minutes worth of things to do. We're happy to do that at the end of the meeting. So if you'd like to talk to the chief or one of us, we're happy to have a conversation. But let us get through the other items that are on the agenda, and then we'll go to that. Does that make sense? Okay. So Jim, discussion and vote on ARPA request for revenue replacement?
Sure. As the board may recall, a few weeks ago, you asked Mike,
Hold on, Jim, I'm sorry. Hi, Judy.
I was here for open forum.
Yep, well, come on up.
I'll take 2 minutes.
Okay, no, that's okay. I only saw Bill raise his hand, so sorry about that.
He blocked me. I'm Judy Conroy, Precinct 7, member of the Walpole Housing Authority. Since the override of the school passed, the reuse of Johnson Middle School has been a topic of conversation on several occasions, including tonight. As a member of the Housing Authority, we took a vote and sent a letter to your board with a desire to get in line to repurpose Johnson Middle School for housing. I'm here tonight to ask the board, when do you plan to form the subcommittee or the study committee or the repurpose committee? As I see it, any project that may or may not take place, whether it's a sale or a future use, repurposing for housing, whatever you need, whatever it turns out to be, it's going to take some time. And the clock is ticking, the school project is going, and I hope that we would have some kind of idea of a repurpose soon, so that anyone planning any major construction or grant applications and things like that could take place.
So here's what I've told other people. So we've asked to have an engineering study. Engineering might be too strong a word, but to have the building looked at from a point of view of roofs, doors, windows, boilers, infrastructure, and what kind of shape the building's in. Once we have that, which should be in another.
so that's under my update, so I'll give
Okay,
you a quick
perfect.
update, really quick on that. So Patrick and I met with Compass Project Management today regarding the Johnson Middle School and the Old Town Hall facilities study. We enlisted them to kind of take a look at the buildings, update the McGuire report from 10 years ago, give us an idea of what that building can be used for, an overview of some basic improvements we need to make to those buildings. They've wrapped that up. There's a report ready for this board. I was going to ask you to place it on the June 24th agenda, because I know June 6th is pretty full. 21st? Okay. The second meeting in June.
Sure.
So your board can discuss that. Tim Bonafati's agreed to come in, present the report to you, kind of give you a brief narrative on each facility. So after that, I'm gonna put it in your hands and ask you, now what do you wanna do? So does that make sense?
Yeah. So Judy, I can't speak for the board, but I've
I
always been
understand.
thinking.
I just wanted to
No, I've
throw it
always
out
been
there.
thinking fall is probably when we're gonna wanna regroup. And again, I'm not gonna be the chair after the election in June, so whoever the new chair is will
Okay.
have a lot of input along with the other select board members, but.
We just wanted to get in line.
Yeah,
That's all.
And so I know that I've seen a whole bunch of lists, and housing is one of the items that's on my list, along with other things. So it's something I'd like to really, really pursue, so.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Anybody else for open forum before I jump ahead? Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, ARPA?
So ARPA. So a few weeks ago, the board considered a request to elect the revenue replacement allowance option for the funds that came directly to the town of Walpole. I was informed this past week by County Administrator John Cronin that at the county level, they've allotted at this time $508,640 as Walpole's current revenue replacement allocation at the county level. This could change. It could go up, in fact. I know towns like Medway, I've talked to Michael about that. They're electing to use their whole allotment on their water treatment plant, so they're not even interested in pursuing any other revenue replacement funds. So their funds will go in the big pot. I think Rentham's informed me they're probably not. I know Bill over in Foxborough and Tony in Norwood want to go for revenue replacement. So there's some towns over there that do want to go for it, and there's some towns that said, I'm all set, I just want to go for a water replacement project. So At the time, right now, we have about 508,000. So I request that the select board authorize myself and finance director to inform the county we want to elect the revenue replacement allowance option in accordance with the final rule for the ARPA funds to be held by the county. This will allow us to just get the funds in place. The process for Jody and I to fill out the needed forms on the portal, which is the website we go through for this, is about a 2 to 4 week turnaround, so it's not something, it's just gonna allow us to get a head start, and the funds will come here. Your board will still decide, you're not making any decision what to do with the funds. It provides us with more flexibility in those funds.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And just for the people in the audience and at home, our June 7th meeting, we're gonna hear, Jim's gonna have a list of projects that we're gonna consider using our ARPA money. And then some of the people who, you know, whether it's a department in town or somebody else, they'll have a chance to come in and make their pitch. We're not gonna make any decisions on June 7th, but we wanna sort of, you know, build our list of what the items could be, and then at a follow-up meeting, we would probably start to pick away at the project. So we will not have all the money this summer. The money, we'll have a lot of it in the summer, but we'll get some more, I think, a year from now or 9 months from now. I don't remember the timing.
Depends on how they release
Okay.
it at the county level. The town funds, we're supposed to have by the end of June.
Okay.
All our
All right.
2.6 or so million.
Anybody have any questions or comments for Jim?
Just a quick comment. So just for the same reasons that I supported the revenue replacement option for the town money, I would support it for the county money. It's 508,000 would be added to the 2.6 million, and essentially, I don't know how it's kept, or, you know, but it's our money at the town level. We hold it, we control it, and if we want to spend on a project that's $800,000, and we can use 508 of it toward this project, and also pull in another 392 million from the 2.6 million. We can take money from this big pot, is how I'm gonna think about it.
Jody's tracking everything, and we'll keep it with our various accounts and everything, and on the spreadsheet that I present to you folks in a few weeks, I've defined it, you know, revenue replacement funds, you know, water funds that are available, infrastructure funds, it'll be broken down for you to follow.
Yeah, so it's a no-brainer. It should be revenue replacement, yeah.
I just had one question. It doesn't change the auditing review requirements at all on the back end, right?
No, it
It's just-
doesn't.
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
Jim, you want to make a motion?
Motion to authorize the town administrator and finance director to elect the revenue replacement allowance option in accordance with the final rule of the ARPA funds held by the county.
Seconded.
The motion is second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Sportsman's Association request, Jim?
Motion to approve request of Candace Pouzin for a one-day all-alcoholic beverage license on June 19th, 2022, from noon to 5 PM at 499 Lincoln Street for a Father's Day chicken bake.
Second.
The motion is second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. And I also have a motion to approve request of Candace Pouzin for a one-day all-alcoholic beverage license and live entertainment on September 17th, 2022, from noon to 6 PM for a benefit.
Seconded.
The motion is second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion to accept with gratitude the following donation, an anonymous donor to Night Before the 4th gift account, $1,000.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Sorry, there's just one more question that's on the updated agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Senior means
Yeah.
next thing.
Yep.
So, if you don't mind, Mark, I just
Sure.
want to give the board a brief update. I mentioned this last meeting. So Dennis and I have been tracking this very closely for the last few months. As you may recall, within the last 6 months, the board brought up the idea of a senior means property tax exemption, idea that some towns have pursued, a handful, I think about 10 or so, where basically we have to go to town meeting, propose this tax exemption option, then petition the state legislature. It's a whole long process that could take a year or two. Upon our research, we figured that there's a House Bill 2915, an act providing for a means-tested senior property tax exemption that's being considered at the state level at this time. I spoke to Representative Rogers, Representative Phillips, and Senator Feeney's office this week, and it's made it to the third reading, which is a good thing, which means it looks like it may still go forward. We'll know more come July. So I wanted to update the board and let them know that Dennis has looked into this. This is the easiest route for us to go instead of having to do a home rule petition and go through town meeting. If this passes, I believe we'd likely just have to accept this Mass General Law, whatever it's gonna be, instead of going through the whole home rule petition. Dennis estimated the cost to the town in terms of revenue will be about $236,000 if we use some of the same methods we used for some of the other abatement programs. So at this time, I'd like to just let us watch the process. The state reps from the Walpole delegation know where I stand on this. I've expressed, the individual board members have expressed support for this. Please keep us updated. I'm optimistic that it's gonna work its way through the State House, but you never know. If things get bogged down. So if it does get bogged down, I'd recommend we come back here. We have explored, you know, we should probably form a committee made up of maybe 2 select board members, a board of assessor member, and maybe 1 or 2 other people, you know, a handful of people that know this, maybe some former town assessors or whatever, and come together, provide a recommendation to the board. There's a lot of work that we need to go into it if we went the home rule route. So more to come on it. I just wanted to let the board know we are working on it. We're monitoring.
Thanks for the update. Anybody have any questions for Jim on that? No,
Thanks.
Is this just not so much a question, but maybe through you to Ben, is this in alignment, and you've been sort of a leading voice on the board for this kind of option, is this in alignment with how you've been thinking about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jim did a good job of summarizing it insofar as, and we've dealt with a fair amount of bylaw changes over the past couple of years in Walpole, so we're all familiar, you know, whether it's zoning changes or whatnot. And the process that goes through, again, as Jim described, you know, is really onerous. And what it takes to get a home rule petition takes a lot of work. It's very expensive for the town. It's something that I think we had previously mentioned it would be great to have ready for the fall. There's really no way that could happen. It would be a year, possibly more, as Jim again said. So, you know, I'd like to hear more from Rep. Rogers and Senator Feeney. You know, we'll continue reaching out to them to push it. But it sounds promising to make it to the 3rd reading. So I think it's sound judgment to say, yeah, let's see what happens there. If it's something we can just adopt as the matter of course through the legislation, that's the right way to go. Yeah. And it saves a lot of people's time. So I think it's a good path.
Great, thanks,
We'll
Ben.
see.
Okay.
Thanks. Town administrator update.
Just a few items on here. Capital budget, we've moved up the capital budget process just by a few weeks. So I did that actually after talking to Patrick, and we're looking over some of the ARPA requests that have come in. I know your board's, and this is kind of gonna cover ARPA and capital budget, this update. It'll allow me, if I get the capital budget request in late June, your board's gonna discuss the ARPA items on June 7th. I don't expect you to make any type of decision that night. So it'll give me some time to kind of compare the ARPA requests and the capital requests side by side and say, okay, if the police chief or fire department's asking for a command car or a marked cruiser over here in ARPA, are they also asking for it in capital? Can I probably fund it over here? It'll allow me to just do a side by side and report back to your board. So the request for capital due back at the June 24th. Usually they're due in mid to late July. So we've given department heads plenty of time to turn that around. With ARPA, we're set to have that discussion on June 7th, starting around 7:30. I'm in the process of finalizing all the requests now on a list. The game plan is to invite the capital budget, FinCom, school committee, sewer and water commissioners, and by Judy getting up, I thought of the housing authority, any board or committee that may be interested in Walpole and having some dialogue on this matter, in to discuss it. Mark and I talked about giving whomever wants to talk 5-10 minutes to advocate for their
5-10,
various,
not 10-15.
to advocate for their various projects. Department heads will be here to answer any questions you may specifically have. I'm not gonna ask each one of them to stand up and talk about why they're asking for $800,000 for a culvert for engineering. Pretty self-explanatory. We have it broken down by street, Summer Street, Plimpton Street, wherever we may need a culvert. So that's self-explanatory, but the school committee and I hope the sewer and water commissioners come advocate with me on some of their projects and all the boards there. So that's basically the game plan and see where we go from there. Walpole, so last thing, Walpole Day, it's set to be held Saturday, June 11th. Parade's gonna be at 11 o'clock. Yours truly is gonna be driving the Walpole Youth Lacrosse float.
All right.
The parade's gonna be in the morning at facilities. The festivities will kick off right afterwards as usual. And looking forward to it. I know Brendan and Lauren are putting in a lot of work, coordinating with the rec committee on that, so it's gonna be a good day.
Great.
That's it.
Okay.
Any other questions for Jim? Jim, I'd entertain a motion to,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
motion to second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Now, if you still have questions for any of us, come right up. If you want to talk to the chief, go back there. We're happy to.